Hello and welcome to the Raptors Reaction Podcast. I'm your host, William Liu. I'm speaking to you after the Toronto Raptors played themselves, basically, in a thoroughly lopsided, utterly discouraging, just a beatdown from beginning to end. The Raptors lost 119-82 on the road against the Washington Wizards for their final preseason game. And look, before I go on, I want to couch all the statements I make in this episode of the Reaction Podcast, which for people who don't know, who are still listening, who are just tuning in for the first time, this is just like a short post-game visceral reaction podcast to give you the nuts and bolts of what you missed. And in this game, what you missed was the Toronto Raptors giving a very piss-poor effort. And I know it's preseason. I'm going to couch all the future statements made in this podcast with the fact that this was a preseason game. But the last preseason game is a little bit more important than the first preseason game. Right? The last preseason game, you actually shorten your rotations, treat it almost like a regular season game, play your starters maybe 80%, 85% of what you normally play them during the regular season in terms of minutes, and you hope to have a good game because the next game, it really counts. It's really for real. The Raptors will open their season next Wednesday against the Detroit Pistons. So this is their last taste of in-game action. And to come out like this, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's a waste of everyone's time. What are we even doing here? Because this is what I'm talking about, all right? The Toronto Raptors, their defense was the first quarter. The Washington Wizards started the game shooting 14 of 17 from the field at one point. That included 7 of 8 shooting from deep. And it's not even like one dude got hot. It's not like Bradley Beal was just popping threes or anything. No, 6 different players made those 7 threes. So that speaks to a systemic breakdown of the Raptors' defense. Or specifically, the Raptors played no defense whatsoever. Were disinterested in playing defense. They gave up 39 points in the first quarter. Tightened it up a little bit in the second quarter because Washington's second unit is garbage and they need a backup point guard because John Wall's the only guy that's really capable of, handling the offense for them. But then they came back with even just a piss poor performance all throughout defensively. I'm just talking so many wide open threes. I'm not sure if I can find SportVU data for, shot tracking in the preseason games because I'm not sure the NBA wants to spend that sort of expensive equipment tracking this stuff. But I'm telling you, there was like probably 30 wide open threes that the Raptors gave up in this game. And that's not even an exaggeration. How many threes did they give up? 29, right? So I'm betting 29 of those were open. Like it was that bad. And it wasn't like the Washington Wizards were out here running this crazy intricate offense. Like they're not running, motion weak into this dribble handoff weave and no, it's none of that. It's not elevator doors. It's none of that. It's just a high pick and roll in the middle with John Wall and Marcin Gortat with shooters in the corners and one on the wing. Pretty standard stuff. The Raptors have played Washington a ton. They know exactly what they played them in the playoffs. This looked like the playoffs. This looked like the playoffs in 2015, which we've all completely shuddered and erased from our minds. And hopefully we will erase this one, but man, it was just an embarrassing performance. It was so bad that I'm not going to hand out the 3 stars to the Raptors as I normally do. Because, I don't know. Well, who are the 3 stars? I guess DeMarre DeRozan was the guy who came out to play, and he had 34 points, shot 11 of 24 from the field, and had 12 trips to the free throw line, including 10 in the first quarter. But, man, that guy was a minus 34. So, look. Nobody gets any stars. I'm going to hand out 3. What are the opposite of stars? Moons. 3 moons of the night, okay? In honor of Jamario Moon, who was not a good player. First moon of the night goes to Jonas Valanciunas, who looked like garbage. Like garbage. This is not an exaggeration. There's a lot of frustration that goes on with Jonas, right? Because he looks lumbering. He's slow. I don't know. Even when he has a great game sometimes, it still doesn't look that great. In this game specifically, and I'm not, it's not a hyperbole when I say he was the worst player on the court. I mean, he was the worst player on the court. Let's just go over the stats. 5 points, 2 of 8 shooting. Not great. Never looked good in the rhythm. One of those shots was like a lucky, he got kind of fouled in the post and kind of threw one up and it just happened to drop in. So that's one of his 2 shots. Was really hesitant with his jumper, man. Just early on in the first quarter, he got the ball. You know how Jonas does a little shot fake that nobody buys except for Andre Drummond? Jonas did that. Gortat has seen him a million times. He says, you can shoot that if you want. Jonas did shoot that. Clanked a whole bunch of jumpers. But I'm not even concerned about the offensive end. Right? I'm not even concerned about that. It's the defensive end that's concerning. It's the rebounding that's concerning. What? 4 rebounds? 4 rebounds in 22 minutes. Just nothing. Meanwhile, how many? The Washington Wizards got 10 offensive rebounds. Like, at least Jonas, like, come on, man. At least secure the defensive rebound, right? Only got 3 of those tonight. But it's not even that. He just wasn't even in position like so many times. Yes, okay. The other Raptors weren't playing defense either. It's not on Jonas alone that this defensive performance was so bad. But in terms of having a guy who can cover the defense for you, who can read plays, who can, make up for, okay, you know what, I can hedge out on this shooter here, coming on the pick and roll. I can step up a little bit, sort of make him take an extra dribble, and give that extra bit of time for the wing defender to recover onto his man. Nothing like that. Nothing. Just poor communication, just getting burned all the time. I mean, Jonas is already bad at guarding pick and rolls in space anyway, but it's not like he was guarding, I don't know, like a rangy 4, which is usually the type that he struggles with, that stretch 4 type. He was guarding Gortat, right? And John Wall. And look, that's a tough pick and roll combination to get to, because Gortat's a great screener. John Wall obviously is a great attacker off the pick and roll, everything like that, right? But man, Jonas just constantly just caught in no man's land. This is like the same mistakes he was making in his second year, third year. And because of that, a lot of the Raptors had to send help from the weak side. Now, the Raptors sent a lot of help off weak side shooters anyway, for no reason. Well, not no reason, but because they're really hesitant to give up dribble penetration in the lane. But what that led to was John Wall just picking off wide open 3-point shooters all night. And this is what I mean by the fact that the Wizards, like, they look like the goddamn Wizards look like the Golden State Warriors out there popping threes like this, 14 of 29 from deep with 33 assists. 33 assists. The first quarter ended with Washington having like 10 assists to Toronto having 0. It was embarrassing. And a lot of that falls back on Jonas, because he is the center, and the center is most times the anchor of the defense, and he could not anchor the defense. He could not protect the basket. He couldn't secure defensive rebounds, and he certainly couldn't guard out into space. He was often guarding just nobody. When he was coming out way too high on like a pick, and had to rotate to the next guy because someone covered for his guy, would fail to pick up the rotation, would just return to his guy, and then realize, oh, look, Patrick Patterson's being a great help defender. He's already picked him up for me. I should go pick up Patterson's man. Oh, whoops, Patterson's man just got a layup. Like, it was that kind of stuff all night with Jonas, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing because it just wraps up a really bad preseason for Jonas, and it makes me worried because you look at the Olympics, right? After the Olympics, first of all, he had a bad Olympics, which is unusual because he usually plays really well with Lithuania. He usually does. I've watched his his international runs, like dating back to like 2013 and stuff. He's had a lot of good tournaments, and he's played a lot of important roles in there. He had a really bad Olympics, right? He shot like 35%. Afterwards, his head coach, Jonas Valanciunas, is questioning his effort and questioning how much he is devoted to basketball. Now, that's weird because the Toronto Raptors and all the beat writers, when that quote came out, said, you know what, the Raptors have no problem with Jonas' work ethic. And I thought that was strange too, right? But then coming into the preseason, Dwayne Casey says, you know what, he's still playing his way back into game shape, which is coach speak for he's not in shape. Okay, whatever, it's preseason, you had a long season. Jonas played in the playoffs, he played internationally, he probably is tired, that's fine. But throughout preseason, all he's looked is very lethargic, very lumbering, just the worst parts of Jonas. And this is a big problem. This is starting to really worry me because, look, man, the Raptors have exactly one reliable center. And the other center, by the way, Bebe, who is supposed to be the backup center, landed on Marcus Thornton's foot and twisted his ankle and was down, writhing in pain. He was able to walk off on his own power, but he really limped off. He looked terrible. You can find a video of Jonas slowly limping into the tunnel in the second quarter when he did not return after that on Ryan Wolstadt's of the Toronto Sun. You could check out his Twitter account. There's a video in there of just Jonas slowly limping to the tunnel. And so Jonas is already, I guess the franchise showed a big leap of faith in Jonas. Took a big leap of faith in Jonas, because Bismack was gone, because he played so well in the playoffs. It looked like he was ready for a bigger role, and I believe he's ready for a bigger role. But so far, since basically the playoffs, since he dropped, 18 and 12 on in a half against Hassan Whiteside, he's just looked bad flat out bad. And this is the worst of all the performances. And again, he's the only reliable center. So the Raptors really need him to step up and really seize that third big or that number 3 star role. And right now he looks terrible. So he gets the first moon. I don't want to shit on him that much, but really, this is not me being unfair. This is a reflection of how poorly Jonas played tonight. Second moon, I got to give it to Kyle Lowry, man. Kyle Lowry was sloppy, really sloppy, just terrible turnovers. How he had 8 points against 6 turnovers, and normally Lowry plays at breakneck speed because he kind of needs to. He's a sneaky guy who is able to exploit mistakes and things like that. That's how Lowry lives, and that's fine. Normally he makes great plays, and we all applaud him for finding these rare opportunities in the offense that most other players wouldn't see, but today, I'm talking like just bad pick and roll passes, man. Bounce passes to the rolling big when the big had his back turned. Like, how is he even supposed to catch that? And just bad passes all around. Hit ahead passes to the guy who's leaking out in transition, and just having it easily picked up by John Wall. Like, and also 3 of 11 shooting. He had good looks from deep for the most part, but just was off on those. Didn't get to the free throw line. Didn't really play much defense. Like, you're the leader of this team, man. Like, in a night like this, you gotta take over, seize control, do something. Like, at least organize the team either on offense or defense. And Lowry didn't do that. And whatever, I guess it's just preseason, but that was uncharacteristically bad from Lowry. And then the third moon, I don't even know, man. Like, DeMarre Carroll. DeMarre Carroll, he hasn't shot well in preseason. He really hasn't. I mean, he was hampered with the knee injury, and he said he wasn't 100%. And then he came out against Golden State and looked really good. But then he took a whole bunch of games off because he was injured, and then he came back. And since coming back, I think he's made like 2 shots on like 12 attempts. So that's not great. And in terms of his defense, he was just doing silly things. Like, DeMarre Carroll's a smart veteran defender. He knows exactly what to do. He is, not known as a lockdown defender for nothing. He really does have a strong defensive track record. But then you can't have a strong defensive track record and then guard Otto Porter and have Otto Porter go 7 of 7 from the field. Otto Porter, man, 7 of 7 from the field. That's your man. That's your man. Like, just making silly mistakes. Like I said, sometimes ducking in needlessly into the paint and leaving, the corner shooter wide open. What are you doing there? Some of that falls on Jonas, like I said earlier. It's, him being out of position means someone has to help. That means someone has to be open after that help, right? But sometimes, Carroll kind of overplayed it. And letting Porter, back cut him and stuff, it was just very odd to see from DeMarre Carroll. Was supposed to be a disciplined defender, but I mean, none of the veterans looked disciplined tonight, man. The only guy who looked disciplined defensively was Bebe. Oddly enough, Bebe played really well defensively, and it's such a damn shame that he's twisted his ankle. I hope he's okay. Other than that, I mean, Patrick Patterson played good defensively, which is fine, but also 3 of 9 from the field, with missing both his threes, and took a bunch of weird, awkward driving layups, which he, whatever. Yeah, I'm not gonna shit on Patterson. Patterson was fine, but yeah, just look, the Raptors veterans, man. They didn't look great. Jonas didn't look great. Especially Jonas didn't look great. And it was a discouraging way to go into the season with this dry run going so poorly. So poorly. And again, it's just preseason, whatever. The Raptors clearly look disinterested, but come on, man. Treat it seriously. Treat it seriously. Like Washington treated it seriously. They played really well. And the Raptors, as a result, got their hands handed to them. So, in terms of storylines to watch, I mean, the 50-man thing is pretty much wrapped up. Like, VanVleet's going to get it. He played 24 minutes to Crawford's 12 minutes. So that right there tells you who's first in line for that. Although that's also partly exaggerated by Corey Joseph missing tonight's game with some minor injury. He'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the rookies, Siakam got the start again at power forward because Sullinger has pretty much missed a month now with that sore foot, which is starting to get quite worrisome because, as some Celtics bloggers warned me, because of Sullinger's weight issues, he tends to have lingering injuries that just stick around for a long time. And granted, Sullinger has slimmed down to 260, things like that, but just imagine, man, the guy with weight issues is off his feet for a month. It just that's not good. So it's going to take him some time to catch up to game speed, and that's unfortunately going to have to come during the regular season. So that's unfortunate, but whatever. It is what it is. Just get healthy. Siakam was fine. Made some energy plays. I mean, the defensive rebounding is going to be a problem with Siakam because he's not very strong right now, but he's quite tenacious. But yeah, otherwise in this game, you know what? He started strongly because he got a switch on to Bradley Beal and stopped him. And I've been talking all preseason about how Siakam's looked great on switches, but when you get out-muscled by, Markieff Morris and stuff, like, come on, man. And then in terms of what the other rookie, Poeltl, he actually had a pretty strong performance, I thought, because he came in for Jonas after Jonas he had a comical possession, man, where he lost his man, then literally stood in the paint and, like, looked around like a cartoon, like, where's my man? You can almost see the gears slowly grinding in his head and his eyes popping out and trying to find where his defender is or where his man is, and he just can't do it, and like he just gets easily scored around. And right after that, Dwayne Casey pulled him out, put in Poeltl, and Poeltl actually did some things. I thought he was okay on defense. Wasn't really passed to very much at all. He only had 2 shots in 12 minutes, but made himself active on the glass. Again, he continues to get offensive rebounds. So I think this is a real thing with him now. I think he's got 2 or more offensive rebounds in every single game so far, and obviously he's played limited minutes as well. So I thought Poeltl looked fine. He was mobile. He looked a lot more mobile than Jonas, which is good because I think anyone would have looked more mobile than Jonas. God damn, Jonas. Anyway, that's that. Yeah. Okay, moving on. We're going to hand out the Gerald Henderson Award for the opposing player that has an inexplicably great performance against the Raptors. Tonight, thanks to Toronto's god-awful, disinterested defense, there are many candidates. So let me just run through some of the names here. Markieff Morris, 8 of 10 shooting, 3 of 3 from deep, plus 37 with 19 points in 30 minutes. You get a share of the Gerald Henderson Award. Otto Porter Jr., mentioned earlier, perfect 7 of 7 from the field. All of that came against defensive maestro DeMarre Carroll there. 16 points there, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. Again, perfect 7 of 7. Marcin Gortat, the guy that Jonas Valanciunas is supposed to guard. 7 of 8 from the field. 28 minutes, plus 31. 3 blocks. John Wall, whatever. John Wall has a great game. He's a great player. And, Kelly Oubre, too, actually had a nice game, too. I like Kelly Oubre. He's active defensively, he gets after it, and sometimes his shot is going. He can drive to the basket a little bit. I don't know. He reminds me of a slightly more aggressive Terrence Ross with not as good of a shooter, but, probably just about athletic and same size. It's interesting. Speaking of which, Terrence Ross also played after coming off the injury with his boneheaded knee injury. He was the only Raptor to finish as a plus. He was plus 4 in his 10 minutes. He actually played pretty well. So, save for one really dumb turnover, which is Ross's daily allowance of stupidity. He played well aside from that and only played 10 minutes, which is fine. I guess you want to ease him back in slowly after the injury, but yeah, it is what it is, man. So yeah, that's it for the podcast, man. I'm tired. It was a discouraging performance, but again, as I said to begin this podcast, it's just preseason. I'm sure the Raptors will come out with a lot more fire and a lot more drive and actually be interested in playing the game when they open the season next Wednesday against Detroit. I will be here on the airwaves to discuss that game, and hopefully it'll be a better game. And hopefully I won't spend 10 minutes of it ripping on Jonas. But I am quite concerned about Jonas. Although, despite the negativity in this podcast, which is, again, specific to tonight's performance from Jonas, which was awful, I'm writing a piece that's going to be released on Monday about Jonas's development and about whether or not this is the year for Jonas's breakout. So look for that on Monday. I will tweet it out at William_Lou. You'll find my work there. You'll find my game notes. You will find a lot of negative tweets tonight about Jonas, which, hopefully we all take with a grain of salt because, again, it's preseason. And yeah, if you have any feedback, please let me know. Again, this project is still very much, on the pop the trunk production, as Jalen Jacoby would say. So, yeah, thanks again for listening. Also, a shout out to our sponsor, Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. They're great. They're great big Raptors supporters. I hope that they didn't watch this game because this game was not worth watching. And yeah, if you ever need a lawyer, go find them. Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. And yeah, any suggestions for the podcast, let me know. Hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter at William_Lou. And I'll be back to you on Wednesday when the Raptors tip off the season for real. Hopefully with real intentions to actually, play the game. So I will see you guys then. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening.